How do you define brand design and development, and what do you think are the important aspects of it?
Brand design is the process of defining brands. We define a purpose and develop functional assets that of communication and representation. Because brand as a mindset, or brand really represents the mindset of a company and the people there. It's an ambassador. It's representing all of that. So primarily, is the business and your product. So there's four components that I like to use as a guide, and it's awareness, knowledge, commitment, and supply chain management. A brand is only as valuable as the business it represents. So the important part is to have a successful business to become a strong brand.
Brand development and marketing are the buzzwords of today's times. The guest that we have on today's episode calls himself a hybrid consultant and has 15 plus years of work experience in the creative industry, advertising, marketing, and business with a focus on brand design and development and a foundation in fine art. He is Phillip J Clayton, the founder of noTheName PJC, a brand-focused business solutions agency based in Jamaica. He's also a writer and a member of the PAC Global Leadership Awards Judging Commission. If you're someone who is intrigued by brand design and marketing, join us to watch Phillip J Clayton dig into some of the finest details of branding on this podcast. Welcome to ArtTown podcast series, sir. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And I hope you're doing well. And before we begin, I want to know that how are you coping up with the pandemic?
A lot of dynamic contrasts are taking place. There's the negatives and the good. Lots of good though. How do I say it? So economically and personally, businesses are coming around. As I predicted in my last talk some time ago, I told them that it's a pivoting year. That's what 2021 is. It's pivoting. So yeah. I'd say it's a 50-50 or everything. Yeah.
Okay. That's great. It's a difficult time, I'm sure, but we're gonna get back to normal. That's what we hope,
How are
right?
you guys doing, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you for asking. So to start with, and this is what we generally do. So could you briefly introduce yourself and the kind of work that you do at the agency?
Okay, so I am. I started in fine art, but professionally, I am a design judge, brand and marketing judge with the PAC Global Awards, and I am a founding partner of a brand and marketing agency, which we call a hybrid agency. We focus on business solutions and brand design and development, and I am personally. I'm known as a brand consultant outside of the agency. I help companies internally to restructure themselves. And I didn't mention my name, did I? I'm Phillip Clayton. So let's start with that. Yeah. But art and design is my focus. Art, design, and business solutions. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So you started out in fine arts and then moved on to become a designer and a creative consultant, right? So I want to know that what made you switch to brand design and business? Like, could you take us through your journey?
I didn't switch actually. I used art to help me with design. I still do shows art-wise. My last exhibition was a long time ago, but I still do art. But I wouldn't say I switched. I found a purpose. And design is driven by purpose and function. Art, as a friend said, art pleases an audience of one, and design pleases a wider audience. So art is subjective, and I use art to now try and identify or evoke emotions in design. When you figure out a solution, you have to now make it appealing, visually appealing. You have to try and get the user to interact with it on an emotional level so they appreciate it more. So design became my purpose, but art is my foundation.
That's a beautiful approach.
My first job after art after my art studies was actually in media production and entertainment. So I was doing a lot of set designs, background work for music videos, live shows, and I was part of an art team that we executed um, whether it was a business promotion or it was a entertainment setting. We would have to create all these set and props for these things, and then I went into design shortly after that.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and as you said that you found purpose in design. So I want to ask you that when and with what purpose did Know the Name come into existence?
Um, well, the name itself came in about 3 or 4 years, 5 years ago. But before that, it was okay. So that's an interesting part. I was consulting as Phillip J Clayton, and then I realized that I need to actually have a company because I kept growing. So I have to now going. I'm going into meetings with corporate companies now, and when you get to that point, the perception changes, and they feel better when you're a registered company, and they know you're liable, accountable, and you have a team of people. And I named that company PJ Clayton Creative, but I've always had these business partners that we do projects together across the globe. And my business partner in Miami, we decided that we should just come together and form an actual agency. This is before the pandemic, obviously. And so they were more on events and they needed the brand aspect. And events is a big part of brand design because it allows people to interact with the brand. And that's what we did. And Know the Name was his idea. And at first I don't understand what he's saying. And then he explained it to me. It's one distinctive. It's unusual, I guess, in some ways, but not necessarily unique. But the idea behind it was actually Game of Thrones. I'm not a big Game of Thrones fan. I don't watch a lot of TV series, but there's a what's it, the no face people or something? I don't remember. And basically, they become anybody they want to become. And I said, that's brilliant because we're not trying to necessarily. Most of our clients, they come to us because they don't know who they are. So we help them to define that. But as we wanted to become a void that ideas can be thrown into. So we're like a nucleus, if you will, for ideas to come from. So we didn't want to have a name that necessarily limited us to something specific, but it's still focused on what we actually do. So Know the Name is really saying we're nobody. We're not really here, but we can help you become who you were, basically.
That's a very interesting name. Even I found it catchy when I first read it, and it has a more interesting story behind it.
Yeah, most
So yeah,
NOW, I would say no, it's NO. It's no.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, my question is like, when did you start off with this journey? Like,
You mean the journey with the company?
yeah, when did you start the agency?
Um, so that's 4 years. We're 2021. If I said four, so 2015 officially, it will become the agency Know the Name. But we've been doing this since 2001. But Know the Name itself was named and founded in 2015, if I counted it right. Yeah.
That's great.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, we just said let's do it. So 2015 happened, and we kept going.
That's great, and you've evolved a lot, I believe. So I want to ask you that how do you define brand design and development, and what do you think are the important aspects of it?
Okay, so brand design and development is this is how I define it. It's about influencing perception. So design, as I said, is about function and purpose, the development is actually the creative process, or but before you get the creative, you have to go through business and product and business development. So you actually have something that you want to define to the public. Um, Brand design is the process of defining brands. As I like to say, people in the profession, they don't actually, we don't create brands. We identify them and we define it. The brand exists just by you doing business. People start to get familiar with you. The only thing is that businesses don't necessarily know how to communicate that to consumers and everybody else. So that's where brand design and development comes in. We define a purpose and develop functional assets that of communication and representation. Because brand as a mindset, or brand really represents the mindset of a company and the people there. It's an ambassador. It's representing all of that. So the importance, if I heard you correctly, the importance of the brand is what you said? So primarily is the business and your product. So there's 4 components that I like to use as a guide, and it's awareness, knowledge, commitment, and supply chain management. A brand is only as valuable as the business it represents. And I'm paraphrasing that from Paul Rand, who said that about logos. So the logo is only, or a logo, the meaning of a logo or the value of a logo is dependent on what it represents. So the same with the brand. The brand, so the important part is to have a successful business to become a strong brand. And a successful business doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a global corporation. It just means that you're constantly growing and you're actually succeeding at what you do, and you have happy, loyal, or returning customers. So the most important part in brand design and development is to undergo product and business development. You might have to restructure the business because none of this makes sense, but we have great quality products, but we don't know who we are. We don't know what we're communicating. Nobody knows that this stuff even is a good solution. So that's when you have to now streamline the business, streamline the production line, make sure the quality of the product is consistent, and you can now take away focus from the product and trying to sell the product, and you focus on the brand design and development side. So now you're creating a personality, as they like to call it. And once you define what that personality is, then you can now develop the branding. Branding is used very loosely, but what branding is really the action or the verb of brand design. It's like, okay, we have all of this, now we can put all this pretty stuff everywhere, we can put these pictures up, nice copy here. That's branding. It's just communication. So when you get to that point, you already have confidence in your business, and brand confidence comes from the confidence in your business. So the most important part has to be the business development, and from there, then you can get into the other details.
Yeah, right. So what I perceive is it is a collective process from like brand design to marketing till the product actually reaches the consumer, right? So in the process, like, do you essentially focus on a human-centric approach?
Um, well, brand has to be centered around. Well, I say has to. Okay, so brand, like I said, it represents people in the company. So it has to communicate to people. So their human centric is definitely part of it, but I always advise against trying to make your brand human, because then that's a problem. You're representing a business. No matter what form it's in, you're still representing a business, and some people are uncomfortable with it, but the only reason you created a brand is to create value. You're trying to create value for yourself as an individual, which they label personal branding, which I don't really separate. I don't really care about personal branding. Brand development, whether it's for an individual or company, is the same for me. I'm identifying the qualities, your value, and I'm leveraging it. That's it. Because then to leverage it, you have to move to marketing and advertising. But the in terms of human, yes, we have to, because in order to connect with these people and get them to be loyal to you, you have to actually care about what they care about. You have to understand social issues. but you're not trying to make your brand humanistic per se. You're just trying to be able to communicate as a business through the brand to people. So you have to think about the human side of your communication. Customer service is a big part of that, obviously. So branding includes, like I said, communication in every form, whether it's sound, written, visual, or your receptionist at the front. She needs to understand what your company is. And sorry, I don't want to say she. It can be anybody, right? It can be a guy. But whoever your receptionist is, wherever the lowest level of employment is to the highest, they all must understand your the company and what you represent, because that's what the communication is. So everything is centered around people, but at the end of the day, you're trying to make money. Speakers get paid to talk, but they still build a brand, and I think that's important.
Yeah, like brand. So you basically say that brands should focus on the purpose they wish to achieve, right? So as someone who has a 15 plus years of experience in this domain, where do you think that brands go wrong in targeting their audience?
um, that's interesting because even large brands make mistakes in that area sometimes. But they have the money to take the risk and test something, and if it doesn't work, they can fix it. Um, the best ones actually own that mistake publicly and re-engage the audience. But I find that communicating to the wrong way is normally taking place with the smaller brands, not the famous ones. I mean, the famous brands already experienced it. They've built their reputation. It's easy for them now. They know who they are. But the smaller ones coming up, they do make mistakes because they either try to explain too much about themselves and forget to focus on actually understanding what the audience wants. So someone may have an idea for a company, and because of what they like, they build this idea around that, and they expect people to like it because they like it, and they think it's great. And then nothing is more definitive than a real world test when somebody buys the product and they end up telling somebody that it's a horrible product, and then that starts to spread through the entire market. So you want to actually learn about what people actually want. Even if you're doing bottled water, you have several brands out there. What makes you different, right? Why would people want to buy your water? In the bottled water space, again, most of the competition is on prices, not necessarily brand, not necessarily and what they label as brand experience. Brand experience is really not what people think it is. It's really, the experience starts when you pick it off the shelf, and then like, why did I pick this one up? So the large brands, they've tapped into that psychology, and they know how to position themselves on the shelves. But they do make the mistake of in their advertising sometimes. They may say something, and you might see a lot of apologies on Twitter or somewhere, oh, we're sorry, and it's because mistakes happen. No, that's the human side of the brand, and I think people are comfortable with the humans with making mistakes. But if you're going to be a humanistic brand, then you're going to make mistakes, and you have to apologize for it. But you have to also have a solution for it, or nobody will forgive you. You just have to deal with the heat. When it rains, as I quote Denzel Washington in his movie, when it rains, you have to deal with the mud too, right? So if you make a mistake, I'm sorry, I did it, but I'm gonna try and make this right. So yeah, they do communicate. They do make a mistake of communicating in the wrong way, or to the wrong audience, and lose lots of money. But it's part of the journey. You have to just know how to respond to it.
Yeah, so a lot of things depend on the user's perception as well, and so understanding the user psychology is really important for brands, right? So when we talk about something that goes wrong, a lot of brands have aced these strategies of marketing. So could you give us examples of certain brands that have gone right in certain times?
Well, I'm a big fan of PepsiCo. Um, I do like Coca-Cola too, but I really fell in love as well, yeah, love. So PepsiCo developed through Mauro Porcini. He's the head VP, if I remember correctly, of their design and innovation center, and it was the first, again, um, if I remember it correctly, it was the first ever kind of entity created for a corporate company like that. And what they've been doing is a lot of that place is really about R&D. R&D is so important in brand and company development. So what PepsiCo Design and Innovation Center does is, you may have seen a lot of new releases for Pepsi um, from Asia, everywhere. These cultural themes coming out from certain, like for Pepsi itself, the cola drink itself, they've rebranded their Lay's chips. They do a lot of of aligning certain things with certain things that people care about, whether it's gender or it's happiness. And Pepsi's always been doing that. Where Coke is more on the minimalistic side, Pepsi have actually been more on the entertainment side, I would say. And what they've been doing with this place is it's an external view on how the company or how their brands communicate and the type of products that they develop. And I think PepsiCo is one of the companies I would say, yes, got it right. And even if they haven't properly done it yet, they're working on that, and it's going great because they're listening, observing, and they're responding. And as a corporate entity that people are anti-corporate, if you want to call it that, a lot of people are. They're actually trying to make a difference. And Coca-Cola is doing it too. They're all trying to be different because they know that their corporate companies over the years they've done so much in terms of business, especially the plastic, and now they're trying to show the world that, hey, we actually we made a lot of plastic bottles, but now we're trying to fix that. And it's people centered thinking, human centric thinking. And that's really, so design is really about that, and that's what a brand needs. Design is really, like I like to say, it's the air you breathe. It's happening every day. It's literally like the physics that you can't live without design. Everything that happens every day is part of design. So PepsiCo is a company I definitely put on that list. I like to there are others I could talk about, but PepsiCo is really impressing me with their design innovation. R&D is like, I'm a huge fan of just research and development, and PepsiCo is doing that right now. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So even you have worked with some of the notable projects and worked with some amazing brands, right? So which was your favorite project, or which is the brand you prefer working with the most?
I could easily call it Pepsi again, but that was like 11 years ago. But I've done wine pairing various events with BMW Jamaica through different consultants. I just like brands. It's hard to pick a favorite. I helped to through an agency that I worked with. I helped to implement the Peter Arnold identity, which is the current Pepsi logo, for Jamaica and the Caribbean region, based on I think Guatemala had the I guess ownership of the region, if I said it correctly. They were managing the region, Guatemala at the time, I think. And in Jamaica, I was part of implementing the entire brand identity across the island. If Guineas, we've done events, their celebration years ago with another company again. It's massive. We had to cover an entire event space with Guinea's logo in black and the logo. And this is now, so we're doing brand, but we're also doing production and events. And we've created several experiences. What I have with the companies I work for, with my current partners, we've worked with several drink companies in Miami for Miami Art Week. I like events like that. We've also executed things at New York Fashion Week, not for New York Fashion Week, but we've done stuff there for our clients or other clients, our brands there. St. Petersburg Design Week, we participated in that all the time. Um, I'm just realizing how many things we haven't done since COVID came. But I've worked with local banks here, which are popular brands here. But internationally, it would be PepsiCo, Guinness, and it's just hard to pick so many. BMW. I don't have a BMW, but I like I like how they communicate. They've always communicated well, and I've been working on that with the local branches is great. Um, my business partners would be best to answer the brands that we actually done internationally, because honestly, I just get these requests sometimes, and we talk about it, and then I say, "Oh, this is my favorite," and another one comes around, and I can't remember. I'm trying to remember these. Like, there's a coconut drink in Miami, and I can't remember. We've done in Miami Art Week. I remember we did something with Blue E6, um, which was interesting. There's a coconut water brand as well that we did something, energy drinks. And it's some of the brands that I've done stuff with, it's not necessarily consumer brands. So it's like I said, the favorite is a hard thing for me to pick. Um, we've done stuff with even during the last NFL game, we did a whole virtual event with a lot of these brands in Miami. Um, you know, but yeah, I doesn't mind. Yeah, I like big corporate brands. I like it's not because they're large. It's just the responsibility of it. So PepsiCo for sure.
Yeah.
I love working on PepsiCo.
It's a broad spectrum of work that you worked on, and it's amazing. And that is why maybe it's hard for you to pick one of them.
Yeah.
Moving on, this is what I believe, that people generally hesitate to pay agencies to develop the entire brand's identity, right? And they rather prefer getting the logo done by some graphic designer, which does not work in the longer run, of course. So, how do you educate people in altering this perspective?
Um, okay, so when it comes to who you work with as a client, or who these services work with as clients, who are the clients, you have to start by defining the value that you're trying to create. And so the client may believe that, or potential client, or inquiry, let's go to inquiry, not a client yet. They may believe that a website or a logo may help them to make more money. It's your job as a professional, whether you're an agency or not, because the client's first thing they're most likely going to do, and it's rare that a client would say, "You're too cheap." Okay, it's rare, but it happens. I know a story of a client that said, a talk between Blair Enns and David C. Baker. He was giving an example of a client of a company he was consulting with, that apparently if they said, if you ever send me an invoice for $150, I think, we'll fire you, but we're never requesting your invoices otherwise. That's the client you want, because they're trying to make an investment into their company.
Right.
But generally, the client's gonna say, yeah, we want this because it's gonna, increase our value and all that. It's your job as a professional to say, let's have a proper chat first. Let's look at what the problems are actually, if you're willing to do that. Because then you have to get paid for this as well. So they have to be willing to pay or invest money in you researching their company and identifying problems. So you're not really charging clients for these deliverables like logos and websites. You're really charging them for identifying value or solutions to problems that they may not have seen. And so it's your job as a professional to actually let them know whether you think that, if you don't think this is going to solve the problem, tell them. And if they're willing to talk further about it, you can. But before you even get there, you just have to decide, no, I don't want to work on this client. and the client has the desire that you're not the right fit for them either. But the education starts with possibly saying no to the job if you don't think it's worth it, if they're not serious enough. But no might invite a question. They might want to know, oh, why are you saying no? And then you can start talking. The moment you say yes, you've lost your value. I'm sorry. When you say yes, they have already said, okay, you're eager. You're gonna do what I say. If you say no, they're gonna be like, who is this person? And then they're gonna ask questions. But the service side, the freelancers and maybe independent small design firms and stuff, they have to start understanding the agency perspective. You have to become an agency, but you have to understand why agencies operate the way they do. The agency, they have associations, and they're trying to maintain the level industry quality and value. So they have their rules. Some people don't like that, so we're not part of an association. We're not structured to be part of the association, but there's a reason the association exists. And it comes with its own problems. I'm not saying it's perfect, but you have to start to operate that as a business, not as a creative service. You have to start operating as a business. Every business I can think of, whether it's an individual consultant or a company, you go in there and they're going to tell you what their engagement levels are. They're going to tell you what their prices are. They're going to tell you, no, we can't do it for that. But for some reason, creative professionals, designers, artists, everybody, they feel that they have to justify their prices. And the client already smelled your weakness and they're going to eat you alive. Because they're gonna come in and they're gonna tell you exactly what they want, and they're gonna try and hold you up with that money. I said if it fails, it's your fault basically, but you did exactly what they want. So you have to educate them by saying, no, this won't work for you. And I think it's hard for people to do that because everything that comes is viewed as an opportunity, but not every offer is an opportunity. And I think once you understand that not every offer is actually an opportunity that are beneficial anything, then you have a different perspective, and you can actually be confident about telling the client, no, the website's not going to make you money, but you can still get a website, but let's focus on what will make you money. Let's focus on what the problems are that you're trying to really solve, and then we can finish with a website. It's like a bow on your package. And, if the right client can appreciate the financial investment, the financial value of that, then make that investment. So the education is making the client understand the investment, I think. Presenting an investment opportunity. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, right. So the clear communication is the key basically in this business, right? So from opportunities, I want to ask you that for companies that are just starting up, like for fresh startups, so what should their attitude be towards the client? So you said that immediately saying a yes, they get to know that you're eager. So they'll tend to fool you. So how should the startup's attitude be, like people working on startups?
I get that question a lot. You'd be surprised how many people ask me that on social media. Yeah, a lot of stuff happens in the background on social media with me. I don't share it, but with private messages. How can I blah blah blah. So here's the I think anybody who can say no is very, very educated on the discipline that they're doing, because they know what it's worth. So if you're a fresh startup, the reality is you don't have to, but chances are you're going to say yes to some projects to get some money in, and you want to build a reputation. But I've done this too, and I wish I hadn't, because now I know so much more. But if you start off on the right foot, where you understand your value and your information and your skills, you're really good at something, and you understand what it's worth, and you can figure out a way to not just depend solely on this thing you're doing. I mean, even if you have to work for another company, I'd rather you work for somebody else than sell yourself short. Okay? So while you're building that, if you have a job, you can be selective with the type of clients that you take on for your own business. The job is already just paying you for your bills and whatnot. So you have secured your primary needs. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. and you take your time. Damon John from Fubu, he did this. He worked at Red Lobster and built Fubu. He did what he called time transfer. So if he's doing whatever 20 hours here, eventually he takes 5 hours from there and put it on Fubu. And he keeps doing it because it's growing. So he keeps putting more time over there. So my advice would be get a job, right? And build your business on the side. So you don't have to worry about your primary needs. And you can be selective with the type of clients you work with on your side product, side business, whatever. Are you familiar with Chris Do? You ever heard of Chris Do? Right. Chris Do has a nice story. No? Okay. Well, you can look up The Future if you want. It's an educational brand that he built. It's spelled with Futur though, no E in the end. And so Chris Do told he has his own struggles coming up, but he said something that really stuck with me, and because I did a similar thing. I've always been working for people before I went into my own thing because I could not be a starving artist. I don't believe in that ever. I don't believe any artist or designer should be struggling for money. If you can work for somebody, then just do that until you figure out how to do it on your own. But don't sit there trying to build something that you have no idea what you're doing. You're gonna suffer. That's just the reality. This is not to discourage people who have the balls or the guts to go and just push through it. I'm not saying don't do that, but I'd rather you just get a job. Chris Do's story in college. He started charging for work in college before he even went out on his own as an adult. And he told a story about doing something, and he told the person that he would do it for $10,000. And they were like, can you do it for whatever? And he said, no, 10. He just stuck to 10. Right?
Yeah.
And eventually they did, because he was good at what he did. And they just agreed to the 10, and he did it, and they're happy. And sometimes you have to just know how to stick to it, even if you don't get to do the project. It doesn't mean it's because of you. They're just not the right fit. Understand the value and stick to it. So you can actually start off your first fresh startup. Very valuable, but you have to be confident in it. You don't have to. I know everybody gives advice about how to build and whatnot. You can, based on Crystal's story and all the stories out there, you can go right away. Once you understand what you're doing, you can go right away and say, hey, yeah, this is what I'll do it for. And if they don't want that, if they don't like that price, then like you just move on. You know, it's fine. You don't have to feel bad about being expensive. Expensive is only because the expectation isn't aligned with your value, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. My advice, like I said, get a job, build it on the side, or be bold enough and educated enough to just go straight out and say, this is what I'm gonna.
Right, that's very insightful, I feel, and it's a very important advice. Yeah, so it was very insightful advice, and it is very important to approach with that mindset, importantly. So you also mentioned that you get all these requests on social media, and I must say you have a massive presence online, and you're also a writer. So do you think that personal branding helps you in business and bringing opportunities or projects on table?
I've never actually gotten a job off social media. I don't even do job. I do not even take requests for jobs on social media. um, People have tried, and I said no. I would direct them to the company website, and they do the process. I think people keep forgetting that, in spite of the world we live in, there's still a process to doing business, and it's not like if you're in a physical space and somebody came to you to do something, you wouldn't do the job there. You'd send it to your company, you know. So I treat social media the same way. I love helping people, but when it comes to a certain point, I said no. Now I have to start charging you. So, you know, I can give you advice, I can share information with you, but I'm not gonna do a whole work session with you online. But I've never, and neither does our company presently, ever received a job through social media. We do build relationships though. I've personally built a lot of valuable relationships through social media, and I've also offered advice to a lot of people in the background, like I said. So I like you said massive, and I realize that I do have a presence. I don't so I use social media in a very interesting way. I don't necessarily aim to get lots of followers. I'm very selective with who I follow, and I end up following more people than people that follow me. But I'm not really selling anything online anyway. I'm just talking. So I see a profile, and I'll like an Instagram. I say, "Well, that's interesting," and follow it, and I'll end up following a significant amount of people, but I'll only have like 1,000 followers, and I'm fine because those 1,000 followers are the people that actually care what I'm saying, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But the presence, I like that you said that. It's the presence and the numbers are two different things. So this data-driven world is that people look at these numbers and they think, oh, that means something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, but maybe only 100 people actually care about what you're saying. So the presence, your social media presence, not necessarily on the numbers, is the type of engagements you're having. And I have a lot of engagements in the background because of my public presence. And that's why I met some of the industry people that like agency leaders and corporate companies. I met them through social media, just by conversation. And we don't always follow each other, we just enjoy the talk and we move on with our lives. So yeah, I've never actually gotten a job through social media, and I do not mind that at all. I don't like to be too accessible.
Yeah. So when it comes to business, you like to keep it professional.
Yes, always. I'm really an ambivert, I think is the word. So I like my solitary a lot. I don't really like engaging too much, but it's not a problem. So, but when it comes to business, I love the ambiguity and privacy of it. I don't need to tell everybody what I'm doing, but we will share stuff on our website soon enough. We're trying to be selective with what we share. But yeah, it's I like the professional. I like to keep that part specific. I'm not a social media business. Right?
That's great. That's perfectly like it's everyone's personal take on it, right? So at this point of your trajectory, do you have any plans in expanding your business in future, and how do you plan to do it?
I'm not going to reveal too much, but it's definitely the aim for us is to become, well, if the agency doesn't become this, we definitely have it. Either as maybe like what PepsiCo did, it would be a separate entity that's part of the same company. But it's definitely going to be an R&D focused, I don't say department. Whatever it's going to be called, whether it's a new department or a different company, it's definitely going to be in R&D. I love the process of development a lot more than the actual end product. The end products they're rewards. Money is a reward. All this stuff is a reward. I love the process of discovering and solving, seeing problems. I get excited. I'm like, how can I, do I know how to fix that? And I want to fix it. Grocery shopping means a headache. I look at every shelf and I'm like, wait, this needs to be changed. So that's what the company is going to be. It's an R&D, I like the R&D center. We still have, so as an agency is really about client management. But what we're trying to become is definitely an R&D, innovation focused, trying to, if we can present solutions on our company's behalf, then clients will hire us anyway because they're going to like what we've done and they want to like, hey, can you do that for us? I think that's a key point to not become client dependent. So yeah, let's rephrase that. The future of the company is not to become client dependent. We're going to make our own stuff.
That's great. That's great. I wish you all the best for all your future endeavors. And since we are towards the end of this podcast, I would like to ask you any last piece of advice that you would like to give young entrepreneurs who are heading towards brand management.
Well, based on my journey, I would say worry less, because I worried a lot in the past. Worry less. Get a job if you can't figure it out. Don't feel bad that failure is something that happens. It's not the end of the world. Failure is part of your journey. Failure is an opportunity to discover something new. Chuck Close, a famous artist, said that inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just get up and go to work, because the truth is, inspiration has to find you busy. You don't sit around waiting to be inspired. You have to be doing something. And majority of the companies out there, their success was on something that was discovered when they're trying to do something else. They weren't even doing that.
Right.
And they said, whoa, what is this? This is amazing. So yeah, worry less. Embrace failure. It's going to hurt, but embrace it. And just respond the best way you know how, but don't get beaten down by it. And on the financial side, yes, definitely get a job if you cannot figure out how to do this thing right now. At least at the end of the day, if you're a good artist and you don't know how to do a business, find somebody who can help you or get a job, because at least you can make some money and build a life as an artist. But don't struggle with things that you don't know how to do. You can educate yourself while you work. So yeah, my advice would be I think I said 3 things, right? Worry less, embrace failure, and secure your financial needs. Those 3 things I think are important, and everything else will follow.
That's wonderful. We have some wonderful takeaways and insights to take away from this conversation. And I really enjoyed talking to you, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you as well, yeah?
Congratulations to all of you who made it till the end. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I really hope you liked it. If you did, please leave us a review on our YouTube comment section. And if you come up with any questions while listening to this podcast, you can add a comment on Instagram or YouTube, and we will get back to you and help you as much as possible. You can find us on Instagram or our website by the name ArtTown.store. So do connect with us. We're truly excited to converse with you.